I'm sure you have heard the sayings, money doesn't go as far as it used to, and back in my day, soda only cost a nickel. These phrases might sound like someone just reminiscing about the good old days, but it is honestly accurate, and they point to a real and important concept in economics called inflation. Understanding inflation and how it connects to the idea of money is important if you want to understand how our economy works, why prices rise over time, and why our money continuously loses value. To understand inflation, you need to think about what money actually is. A very basic explanation of what money is that it is a representation of value. The paper your cash is printed on really is not worth much, but the value that society has agreed it represents is what matters. And because of this, it helps us measure and compare what things are worth and what the value of said goods or services have. When you go to buy a new pair of shoes at the store, the people who own those shoes have determined that the labor used to make them, the materials that went into them, and the effort of getting them into your hands have a specific value. You will then use the equivalent amount of money that equals said value in exchange for it. But here's the catch. The value of money is not constant. A dollar today doesn't buy as much as it did 10, 20, or 50 years ago, and that's because of inflation. Inflation is the general rise in prices over time. It means that the same amount of money can be used to buy fewer goods and services than it did before. If a gallon of milk costs $1.50 in the past and costs $4 now, that's inflation at work. This doesn't mean that the milk itself has changed, it just means that the value of money has gone down. Although sometimes the milk actually does change, which can raise or lower its value, but that's a different discussion. So what actually causes inflation? There are three main reasons for it. One type of inflation is called demand pull. This happens when there's more demand for products and services than are available. Remember back in 2020 when all of a sudden toilet paper was hard to get? Everyone still needed it, but it was sold out in a lot of places, for many reasons we won't get into in this video. But because everyone wanted toilet paper and there was not an easily available supply of it, the price increased. In fact, the price for toilet paper went up over 60% in some places, so you needed more money for the same amount of something because it was harder to get. Another type of inflation is called cost push. This occurs when the costs of manufacturing or transporting goods rise. For example, if oil prices increase, then gas prices increase. When gas prices increase, it becomes more expensive to transport goods, and those companies are not going to accept lower profits on the same goods, so they raise their prices to offset the difference. That's why oil prices have such a large effect on the entire economy. It has an impact on nearly every item you buy, from food to cell phones. This is also the type of inflation that happens when pay increases by large amounts. The company paying them does not want to lose the money they are spending on extra pay, so they raise the prices on their goods to make up the difference. The last major cause of inflation is called money supply inflation. So if money is a representation of value, and we know that higher demand for something makes its value rise, what happens when there's less demand for something? Well, obviously the value of it lowers. This is what happens when the government prints money. The government wants to buy some fancy new fighter jets for its Air Force, but they're very expensive. So what does it do? They just make more money.
Show me the money!
They don't actually turn on a big printer and print out cash. The way they make the new money is complicated and involves the Federal Reserve, government bonds, and lots of other things that are not important to understanding inflation. Just know the government has the power to make new money, and they use it a lot. This means that there is now more money in the economy than there was before. And like we just explained, when there is more of something, the value of that item decreases. So every time new money is created, it loses value. And since it is a representation of value, this causes more money to be needed to represent the value of the goods and services you are buying, making prices higher. This is inflation. Inflation is inevitable. It can never be stopped, and it shouldn't be. No inflation is a bad sign for an economy in general. It encourages people to spend their money and invest their savings. However, inflation needs to be kept at a reasonable level. How is that done? Generally, that is done through interest rates. If inflation gets too high, interest rates go up. This is done to slow down how much people and businesses are spending. And when spending goes down, prices go down, although it might take a while. And when inflation is too low or the economy is not doing great, they lower interest rates. This gets people and companies to spend more money and take out more loans, which in turn stimulates the economy. So to summarize, money is a representation of value, and there are three main causes of inflation: demand pull inflation, when demand exceeds supply, like the toilet paper shortages in 2020, or cost push inflation when production costs rise, such as fuel or wages, leading to businesses increasing their prices, or money supply inflation when the government creates more money, reducing its value and increasing prices.